fight as a single, impenetrable unit. That is the source of our strength.
Can we hear some of that science right now?
Yeah, of course. Which let me see. Hold up. Let me pull up some real quick. Let me show you real quick. Yeah, man, we deal with the information, man. Some of the science. Okay, here we go. Let me see.
Hold on to your seats, man. Don't get nervous. Yeah, it's part of the thing. You know, we're going deep into, as they call it. Oh, man, when they start talking about the brother, going to start going. I can't turn off the TV, turn it back. Man, you start going.
You want me to share my screen, or you just want me to read?
It's up to you. It's all good.
All right. Well, let me share my screen for a second, then.
All right. Boom.
Yeah, bet. There you go. Bong. All right. So check it. We'll just go through a little bit, right?
Right.
So what is cosmogony? Definition: the branch of science that deals with the origin of the universe, especially the solar system. What is the universe? Definition: the universe is all of space and time and their content. The Latin word universes, meaning combined into one. Definition: una is a prefix that means one or single. It comes from the Latin word unus, which also means one. Now, who is Jehovah or Yahuwah? Book of OAHSPE, the Ark of Bond, chapter 9, verse 12 and 13. Who is Yahuwah? Jehovah. The ever-present. He fills all space and place. That's how Jehovah is described in the OAHSPE, as the ever-present. What is the meaning of ever-present? Definition: used to describe something that is always there. Here is an example of something that is always there. Your cosmos. Creation. This is your creator. Something that is always there, the ever-present. There is no beginning and ending to what you're seeing here, right? And as you see this example of the ever-present, you see these lights, these spiraling galaxies as we travel, right? We're going to explain how those things come into being. This is the understanding of the creator. Now, the ingredients of the universe. What is the universe made of? Source. According to the most scientific sources, the 10 most abundant elements in the universe are hydrogen, helium, oxygen, carbon, neon, nitrogen, magnesium, silicon, iron, and sulfur, right? Look what the OAHSPE says. These are the building blocks of creation, the periodic table of elements. That's what makes up the universe as far as the elements. Here's an illustration of an atom. Here's a hydrogen cell, an oxygen cell, a carbon cell. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to how it's structured of the cell. Pay attention to the structure of the cell. Before you can create anything, you must have ingredients to create. The ingredients to creation. Book of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 5. Observe, O man, as a farmer sows corn in one place, wheat in another, flax yet in another, everything in a separate place. Here's an example of that. Even so does Yahuwah store the ingredients of which worlds are made, everything in its place. The substance of iron in one place, the substance of stone in another, the substance of the vegetable kingdom in another, and likewise for the substance of the animal kingdom, and the oils and sands, for he, Yahuwah, has places in the firmament of heaven for all of them. So this is the abstract elements of creation, the raw elements prior to worlds coming into creation, right? These are the elements, abundance in the universe, another source, showing the elements in the universe. Now here's how things are created. Here's how creation starts. The force and power of the universe. How does creation start? The origin. Book of Jehovah, chapter 1, verse 1. All was, all is, all ever shall be. That's past, present, and future. The all spoke, motion was, and motion is, and ever shall be. Being positive, he was called he and him. The all motion was his speech. So right here in this one verse, it's letting you know that the creator is all motion. And he's described as being positive force. And the he and him is not referring to a man, but the positive force of motion, right? Definition of the universe, all space and time. The origin of creation within the universe is motion. Book of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 6. For each and every corporeal world, I created a vortex first. So before you can have a galaxy or a solar system within a universe, you must have motion, and this motion flows in a vortex pattern. What is a vortex? In fluid dynamics, A vortex is a region in a fluid in which the flow revolves around an axial line, which may be straight or curved. That's fluid dynamics. Fluid dynamics. In physics, physical chemistry, and engineering, fluid dynamics is a subdiscipline of fluid mechanics that describes the flow of fluids, liquids, and gases. Now, here is the universal structure of these things. Here's an example of a vortex. Here's an example of a hydrogen cell, an oxygen cell, and a carbon cell. And at the far end, an example of the solar system showing you one universal order, right? So now look at this. In order to bake a cake, you got to have the ingredients. And when you mix the ingredients, you mix them in a rotating manner, right? In order to create, you got to mix the ingredients in a rotating motion. Here's an example. So once those ingredients, which is the hydrogen, the oxygen, the raw minerals in creation, when the creator starts to create, it gets to spinning. It gets the vortex motion starts. Book of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 4. By the power of rotation, swift driving at the periphery, I condense the atmospheric worlds that float in the firmament, and these become my corporeal worlds. In the middle of the vortices, or the vortex, I made them. And by the power of the what? Vortices, I turned them on their axis. So here's an example of an atom cell, and here's an example of a galaxy showing you the same force and power in creating both. From the macro to the micro, you see the same system in order. Book of Jehovah, chapter 3, verse 3. The whirlwind I made as a sign to man of the way of my created worlds. Here you have the example of the whirlwind. Here's a side view of the whirlwind. Here's a top view of the whirlwind. Now, if you notice, if you look at the top view of the whirlwind, that looks like a galaxy, the same force and power, the same structure, right? As you see the power of the whirlwind gathering up dust of the earth and driving it together, know that likewise I bring together the Jaya, the Aja, and the nebula in the firmament of heaven. By the power of the whirlwind, I created the corporeal sun, moon, and stars. And here's an example of that. So on the left, you see the raw elements prior to the vortex. To the left, you see when the creator gives the vortex motion, driving things to the center, creating your central sun. Right? Here's a picture of Andromeda in 1888 before CGI. CGI came out in 1958 because a lot of people try to, play the CGI game. Here's a same force and power of the vortex and the central sun in 1888. This is the Andromeda constellation. So now the creation of the sun. Let's go into that real quick. The creation of the sun. What is cosmogony? Definition: the branch of science that deals with the origin of the universe, especially the solar system. So now let's get into that. Many scientists think the sun and the rest of the solar system formed from a giant rotating cloud of gas and dust known as the solar nebula. Source, space.com. Solar nebula, gaseous cloud from which, in the so-called nebula hypothesis of the origin of the solar system, the sun and planets formed by condensing. Britannica source, Britannica.com. Now let's go into the OAHSPE, see if that is verified. Book of Jehovah, chapter 4, verse 15. First as vapor, which is gas, the vortex carry it forth, and as it what? Condenses. Its friction engenders heat, and it is molten, becoming as a globe of fire in heaven. So here the OAHSPE is literally telling you how a sun is created by vortex, by gases carried in the vortex to the center of the vortex, producing a molten globe of fire, right? Book of Jehovah 3:7. To make the sun, I created a great vortex. You see that as an example here. You see the great vortex, and you see the sun in the center. To make the sun, I created a great vortex, and within this vortex and subject to it, I made the vortices of many of the corporeal worlds. The sun's vortex I caused to rotate, and I gave it power to carry other vortices within it. According to their density, position, they are thus carried forth and around the sun. So the same way the planets orbit and subjected to the sun is the same way the sun is orbiting and is subjected to the galactic center or the Milky Way galaxy, right? So you have vortices within vortices within vortices. Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, chapter 133. The Earth's vortex is a subvortex existing within the sun's vortex. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and so on, are corporeal worlds, and each and all of them are within vortices being sub-vortices also. So here's an example of that again. You see the cell, you see the oxygen cell having the same structure as described in the OAHSPE. A central sun, and the electrons play as planets. The atom follows the same rules, having a neutron and protons in the center as a sun, and you have the electrons orbiting the neutrons and protons like planets. Now, and the combination of all of these vortices within, including the sun's vortex, is known by the name Great Serpent. Doesn't that sound familiar? Great Serpent, or Solar Felix, for which reason the sun's vortex was called the Master. Book of Cosmogony, Prophecy chapter 1, verse 1. The same principles apply to all stars, sun, planets, and moons. And what do you see? What do you see right here? You see the vortex and a central sun. So this is the one universal order that the OAHSPE explains how the Creator creates through vortexian power, and that vortexian power precipitates to the center and creates central suns, right? So we're showing you one universal order. Now check this out, priest. Book of Safar, and I'm almost done. I'm going to cut out right here. Watch this. You're going to like this part. Book of Safar, chapter 1, verse 58. Jehovah said, the sun I made as the head of a serpent, and his felix I made as the body of a serpent. Thus I made the great corporeal serpent. So here in the OAHSPE, the serpent is described as the solar system. But why? Why is it described as the solar system? Check this out. Why does OAHSPE reference the solar system, the great serpent? It's because of its motion, moving like a wave, which is the flow of the vortexian current. Now here's evidence. Now check this out. Look at this. This is 12 stunning pictures of the sun clicked over 12 months at the same place at the same time go viral, right? Look at this. This is the motion of the sun throughout the year, right? On the right side of this, you have the 12 months, and you have spring, summer, fall, and winter. And throughout the year, it shows you the direction of the sun. It moves in a wave. It moves as a serpent, a snake. Now watch this. A solstice is the time when the sun reaches its most northerly or southerly excursion. Now here's an example of that on the left. You see the sun in the south during the spring. When it reaches its north, it's at summer, and it comes back to the south. So this, and if you notice in the center of this picture is a house, showing you that they took the picture at the same spot. So it's showing you how the motion of the sun, right? Now watch this. Now this is 2 years of the sun's course. This is 2 years. Look at that. That's a wave. That's a frequency. That's why it's described as the great serpent, because it's coursing in the cosmos left and right or up and down like a snake, like a serpent. That's what they call it. That's what OAHSPE described the solar system as, the great serpent. It's coursing back and forth. And look at this. Look at this, family. You have mechanical waves and you have light waves that move in the same manner, that vibrational frequency. The sun moves in the cosmos in the same way. The great serpent in the OAHSPE is a cosmological science. And when we look at the visible spectrum, this is the electromagnetic spectrum that I was talking about earlier, visible light. Things that we see as visible light is 300 nanometers to 700 nanometers. This is what we see. Outside of this, we would classify this as invisible. The X-ray, UVs, gamma rays would be considered invisible. The infrared rays, radio, TV, those would be considered invisible waves that we can't see, that our eyes can't depict. But what we can see is what we call visible light. But look at the wave frequency. It's the same thing. It's that same wave frequency you see here. So that's some of the science, Killer Priest, I just wanted to share in the OAHSPE dealing with, and that's just the science aspect of it. We didn't even talk about the gods yet, but I just want to show you how the creator. Now notice, when I explained that, I did not bring up a deified figure not once. I explained everything based off the ever-present and motion in creation, and how that motion in creation creates vortexian patterns to create life.
I got nothing to say. I was speechless. That was crazy, bro. Damn, the snake.
That's why I said you'll enjoy the book.
Yeah, the snake waveform. That was on point.
Yeah.
That was crazy, yo.
The solar system literally does this in the cosmos. It's floating. The sun is literally doing this as it's traveling around the galaxy. So the ancestors
So it's
who
like
were
a wave in the
exactly.
ocean.
It's a frequency. It's a wave frequency.
Yeah, the wave in the ocean. Wow.
We fight as a single, impenetrable unit. That is the source